There are adults who, on the outside, look like they've got everything figured out, like they know what they're doing with their life. But as you get to know them a bit more, you realize that they're stuck either in one difficult situation or multiple difficult situations that are largely characterized by toxic interactions with people. Toxic in the sense that they get used, they get manipulated, they get used as scapegoats for other people's mistakes, they get put down most of the time, they're disrespected publicly, people treat them as if they're not important. And it's not that this person doesn't see it, it's not that they don't recognize what's happening to them. And it's not that they're also not being affected. They are being affected, they recognize what's going on, they know what's going on is wrong, but they don't know how to validate those experiences to themselves. They don't know how to say that this is wrong to themselves and actually believe it. And what you're likely to find is that this person grew up in a context where they were constantly, the figures of authority in their lives constantly invalidated the emotional experiences, constantly dismissed the emotional experiences. And the only time that they will validate the emotional experiences is if they believed that they made sense. So at 6 years old, they would come home and complain that somebody has hurt them. And if the figure of authority doesn't see a point in reacting the way they're reacting, they would dismiss it. At 8 years old, they would get maybe disappointed, or at 12 years old, they would get rejected. And if the person, the figure of authority, sees that this is worthy of an emotional reaction or experience, then they would validate it. And that will be the only time that they're able to feel their feelings, they're able to experience the emotional experiences. And so they grow up knowing that they don't have a right to validate their own emotional experiences. Someone else has to. Someone else has to give them permission to cry, has to give them permission to feel hurt, has to give them permission to feel disappointed. And so now they get into adulthood with the same pattern of behavior, with the same behavioral response to these situations. And so they're stuck in those situations because they're waiting for someone to see, to recognize that they're going through a difficulty, to acknowledge that what is happening to them is unfair. And after somebody else acknowledges that, then that will give them permission to take action because they have the capacity to act. They have the ability to respond. They're just waiting for someone else to give them permission. And that's because growing up, that's what they were taught, that someone else is more objective, more rational, more logical. And so you rely on them to make it make sense for you. So a lot of adults might be aware they're doing this or might not be aware they're doing it. It might be a conscious behavior or it might be an unconscious behavior. And they're stuck in those situations, not because they're not aware it's happening, they're very aware. It's just that they were not taught to validate their own emotional experiences.